crossbarred that. Are you serious?
All right, we're live.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
We got a metric ton of announcements for everybody this week. I'm gonna kind of wait to see if anybody else is gonna hop in real quick, and we'll just kind of chit chat until then, and then we'll start the announcements and whatnot.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Zach, do you have 2 monitors on your computer? On which
I have
computer
two
are you on?
computers. I'm on both. I'm on my Linux computer and my MacBook.
You gonna have the stream chat open?
I have the stream chat open on my MacBook, and
Cool.
Susie has the
I
notes to go through.
The notes up. Just
I have the notes up on the stream, by the way.
Cool.
Just letting you know. I think Fabrice is coming back in. Should I ping him? Remind him?
I feel like I don't want to say he forgets, but he always like leaves and that stuff. So I don't know if he's away or anything and forgot it or
I'll ping him.
got busy with
Away?
things.
Where could he go? It's a quarantine.
Getting food or something. I don't know.
I'm just teasing. I just okay. Oh, this is restarting so slowly.
She's restarting your laptop.
Oh.
You know when you open an older computer and it hasn't been, and you kind of just left it, you didn't like close anything out, and you go back to anything you do, and it's super slow.
And it's like, oh, I had all these things open. I should probably restart them, but I got to go back to turning my jet engines on first. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and it's a MacBook Air, so it's like it can do things, but ooh, it's like retirement age.
Hey,
Hello.
it's Fabrice.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, it's going.
Figured I'd ping you just in case.
Yeah, saw that.
We're just kind of chilling and seeing if anybody else is going to show up before we get to it. Make sure we're not missing anybody.
Damn, who knew I'm a React Native expert?
What was the... Hold on. I'll tab. Oh, yeah. It's always nice to be able to find the Google solution. Hi, Cody.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. Now that ibuprofen has kicked in. I have that, like, weird headache where, like, if you sleep too much, you get that, like, headache. I don't know why, because I slept normal time.
Yeah.
That's such a Sabian problem.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh,
Meanwhile, I'm like, sleep, what's sleep?
You know that headache you get when you sleep for 24 straight hours? Yeah, I got one of those.
Jeez.
I think my longest sleep record is like 40-ish hours.
How?
In
After,
a row or
yeah,
in a week?
no, in a row.
God damn.
I think I had about 24 to 34 hours during my concussion. I had like 20 some hours when I got my what are they called? Whatever your teeth, the back teeth,
Your
wisdom
wisdom
teeth. Yeah, God. When you have your wisdom teeth pulled out, and then after a wrestling tournament in high school, I stayed up after the wrestling tournament and played video games until like 6 a.m. the next morning, and then I slept for like 40-ish hours. That was an awful
It's like
decision.
almost 2 straight days, you know that, right?
It was. I woke up feeling refreshed like I've never felt refreshed in my life, so I'm not even mad. Because the tournament was on like Saturday morning. I stayed up. I think I slept through school the next day, and then woke up at like 9 p.m. ish. It was very satisfying.
Yeah, that's a very long time.
I am a master at being able to sleep. If I don't have something to wake me up, I'll like wake up, look around for a second, and be able to go back to sleep like every time. kind of like a bank account, you know. I can just like store up 60 hours of sleep and use it, you know, because that's how our bodies work.
I wish it was like that.
Yeah, me too. Just sleep for the whole weekend and you're good for the week. Anyways, it's been a couple minutes. We can get started if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. So some community updates for you. In the Discord with us is Alo or Cody. Alo? How do you pronounce that, by the way? Cody.
Sure.
Is the answer yes? However you feel.
Yeah, it's kind of like aloe. I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
How'd you
It's
come up
kind
with
of
the
both. I don't know.
name? But anyways, Cody here is our new moderator of the Discord, helping us make sure chats are good and whatnot, since we have so many new members. But he's also part of the public relations team, helping us make Reddit posts and whatnot, so we can help get more members. Anything you want to add, Cody?
No, I joined, about a week ago, and I'm glad I'm here.
That is
It's been pretty fun.
exactly what we like to hear. We also have Sarah, Zach's younger sister, on the PR team as well recently. So look forward to a bunch of Twitter, LinkedIn, and Reddit posts coming up, and probably a lot of new members. So other than that, we have been doing quite a bit of advertising, not only on like Reddit, Twitter, and whatnot, but in other Discords. So there is going to be a pretty large influx of new members. So just be aware of that. Good for those of you that have been in here for a little while, help them feel at home and whatnot. If they post something in the introductions that seems interesting to talk about, go ahead and add their name and get them involved. We just wanted to. We're gonna iterate on this a few times this stream, but just right off the bat, we wanted to talk about the proposals channel. In Discord, we have the proposals channel, which allows you to propose a project, and we'll make a channel in our Discord for that project, where you can help find. You done? I just hear a video of my dog being played in the background. But yeah, the proposal channel is really for you to have your own channel and help us let you get you a project set up to get other people on it. After that, we have. Why is project updates right there? Who put that? Suzek?
I don't know. Sue's project updates? Oh, I don't know. I think that was just during
left over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get to the active project updates in just a sec. Then we have the One Swag update. One Swag, for those of you that are new to the community, where we ordered hoodies for oneleif that have our logo on them. We submitted a poll, and the ones that won were black hoodies with our logo on the front and back. We just ordered samples to test out, if the material's okay and whatnot. And then once we receive those, we will, obviously make a decision and whatnot. And then we will set up. We're using a site called Printful that lets you set up a website that everybody can order their own order, and then we can hit like ship or whatever, and we'll get like the bulk pricing, but you can have your own shipping address. So look forward to that coming up soon. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks. I just got the email today that our order shipped. So even though we did get Cody and Sarah on the PR team and Cody on the moderator team, if you're interested in being a moderator for the Discord or helping with PR and whatnot, or having more of a leadership role in oneleif, just let us know. We'd love to find a place for you. After that, next big announcement, we have Philodex, which is a new project that Fardeen brought to the table. I believe his username in Discord is PepperMyAngus. So what Philodex is, it's kind of like from what I understand of it, Will, feel free to correct me, it's a play on words for philanthropist and Rolodex, or like Pokédex.
Philanthropy Index.
Oh, I figured it was like Dex from like Pokédex or like Rolodex for like the olden days.
Yeah.
Shows my knowledge and how much I paid attention.
Shows our choice in name. But Fardeen's actually here if you'd want to speak.
Oh, I didn't see him join. Fardeen, talk about your project, buddy.
Well, Will was doing a good job, so I'll leave it to him to describe it. But I mean, I could speak more on the design side of things once we get to that part of the conversation. But carry on, Will.
Well, basically, we ran into issues, or at least Zach and Sabian had voiced issues while finding the resources to start a nonprofit. And we realized that there were kind of a lot of hurdles and obstacles just to find the information to get it started. But once you found them, it wasn't that difficult. So this website is kind of consolidating all the resources to help nonprofits and charities. We're building a centralized repository of knowledge, tools, funding opportunities, and other resources for individuals in the nonprofit sector.
You can tell the moment you found the page with the written description.
Yeah, yeah.
No, yeah, Will kind of captured the essence of it perfectly. But yeah, it's something that I've personally noticed with friends who've started nonprofits too, and just even if you go on like our nonprofit on Reddit, you'll see a lot of discussion questions being asked about, oh, like I'm new to this process, I need to file this document, how do I do it, or I'm missing this information, where do I get that? So on and so forth. And we actually, so Will, Fabrice, and I, during our call earlier this week, we went through both Canada's and um, the US's site for registering a charity or a nonprofit. And while there was a wealth of knowledge there and a lot of tips for people, it wasn't the best in terms of navigation and presentation.
It's also not concise.
Yeah, it was a lot of information, a lot of reading. To find a specific thing, you would have had to go through like 2 or 3 links at the very least, in circles sometimes, and um, a lot of the documentation doesn't capture best practices as well. So while they might tell you to do things, they don't tell you necessarily how to do it or what might be the best way to do it. But you would have to go into another source like a blog or someone's Twitter feed or a discussion board to find out.
Yeah, I can speak to that. When I was doing the IRS paperwork for us to be a nonprofit with the U.S. and not the state, um, one of the fields that they had us fill out were like the type of organization. There was like educational, or I don't know. There was like 80 options, or plus some, or like other codes that you could go look up, and I just like couldn't find one that like directly fit what we did. So I was like, you know what, we'll just pick one. I assume it's just for internal measurement, like it's not going to impact the functioning of our organization. But I wasn't about to go pay a lawyer, $300 an hour with our limited funds for that.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense. And I think in this day and age, that kind of information should be more accessible. One could say it's easier to start a company than it is a nonprofit, it seems.
It was much easier.
Yeah, so I think what we're trying to do, at least as a collective, is to modernize it a bit and help, as Will said, help build that central location for a lot of that information. So instead of having to go into many different sources, you can just go into one and be assured that the information you're getting is somewhat curated and presented in a precise manner.
We can get back to talking about it more when we get to the active project check-in and look at the progress that you've made since it's come out. But we'll keep going for now. Zach, I believe you put down ASP.NET and Vapor. What did you have in mind there? I don't remember if we talked about that.
I think that was the side-by-side stream that we were
Planning to do.
where you do something in ASP and I do it in Vapor and kind of show a similar project and that stuff. But yeah, that's also probably left over. I think that was something that we need to discuss, or if people are interested in like a stream of APIs. But I think that was going to also fall in to our specific ones for C# and Swift stream series.
We'll get to it a little bit later, but yeah, Zach and I are starting a YouTube series on C# and Swift, so that was one of the ideas that we had. These notes are our free thoughts, a little bit of organization. Anyway, so we can go ahead and move on to active project updates. Unless you had anything else to add there, Zach.
No. Yeah, let's
Yeah,
move
we'll
on.
talk about the streams more later. Okay, so for organizational projects, I went and looked at like the recent pull requests and whatnot for the OneLeaf website. Something that we've been working on is the client-side password validation. So making sure you have like 8 characters, special characters, stuff like that. We have a page not found view, so like if if you go to OneLeaf website /XYZ, we don't have a page that goes to XYZ, so we have a page not found view that displays that Daniel made an awesome illustration for us on. We just finished the front end code for that. The contact us page was created. Was there some more changes to that, Will? I think.
To be done
Yeah.
or right now? No.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. So that'll be done. So that's 2 pages down. And then we added responsive breakpoints, which, from what little understanding I have, I should have known more about this. Basically makes it so that when it checks the device's size and makes the content respond accordingly.
Media queries, but there's another conversation to be had about those.
Got it. So if you're curious and want more information on those, ask Will and not me. So it's looking like most of the V1 designs themselves are either completed or in near completed state. So that'll allow our front end developers to get the rest of these static pages up and running pretty quickly. I'm hoping within the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks we'll be pretty much done with the version 1 of the website that'll allow us to better explain to people who we are and what we want to do. Susie or Zach, anything else you wanted to add to that?
That's the goal.
Yeah.
We really do want to be up and running very soon, and yeah, just like what you said, that's when we're done for V1.
Yeah, getting really close to V1, so excited to get it out and get everyone's work out. So
We just got done with a meeting earlier today about how we're going to handle the login and sign up processes for when we have accounts and whatnot, for you guys to be able to make like blog posts and whatnot. I don't think we really need to touch a whole lot about that. It was more of me keeping notes of what all we've done to update people on, for those that are interested. Zach's going to start OL Go, our OneLeaf mobile app, which will look similar to the website, but allows people to look at a code base for an iOS app instead of a React front end. Anything else you want to add to that, Zach?
nope. Like you said, just to give the end user a different experience on how to interact with OneLeaf instead of just a website. Also an app. Hopefully, we can also get an Android app up soon. But it is also just to be a project to work together with some iOS developers and then potentially others like Flutter and any kind of mobile framework. It's kind of meant to be reproduced in other frameworks too, so it's not only bound to iOS. I'm just that's the first mobile client.
Moving on Monday, we have a meeting with Bread for the Journey, the first nonprofit that we're planning to partner with. We're going to be reworking their website. So yeah, on Monday, we hope to give you guys a bunch of feedback and let you know what the project is going to entail, and hopefully get some people ready to work on it. And then moving on from organizational projects being ones that OneLeaf as an organization supports, and then community projects being ones that anybody can bring in and work on. So moving on to community projects, Zach, you want to talk about SwiftUI? SwiftUI Kit, sorry.
Yeah. So recently I was messing around with it, and pretty much I won't go into too much detail because I don't know how much knowledge anyone has in it. But SwiftUI and UIKit are 2 different ways on how to make iOS components, macOS components, or apps, pretty much views and that stuff. That's kind of what I mean by components. But SwiftUI is making UIKit code easier. But UIKit code's the older one, and I've never checked if it worked with SwiftUI, so I got it to work, and now it works just out of the box of SwiftUI, and it's really cool now because there's live update to any views, and even views I work with that are not SwiftUI by just using it. So really cool about that. I need to do a stream using that because I know saying that there's not a lot of people that completely understand at least what I'm imagining I'm saying for the SwiftUI. But yeah, we're gonna start doing the OL Go app using SwiftUI, and hopefully that'll get a lot more people understanding of what it is and what it's expected of the framework, but then also working together on a project. I'm looking at the notes right now. Yeah, and then it's just planning work for the iOS app. It's really basic right now because we don't have designs. I'd really like just kind of the base navigation. I've been bugging Sue so much about this. I'd like the base navigation of kind of the app.
I'll work on it
And yeah, so we're gonna start working on that.
tomorrow.
Nope, tomorrow. But so yeah, that's starting kind of today and tomorrow. I'll be working on the oneleif Go app. But that's slightly related to SwiftUI Kit. So I guess SwiftUI Kit's on hold, and it's kind of will change and be updated depending on what people think we need in the oneleif Go app while using SwiftUI Kit. That's my long-winded answer. Sorry.
So the other active project we have is Bunny Hop, which is a game that I'm working on Unity. Updates there would just be I'm moving from, so the project currently is hosted by my user account and my own repository, but it's like public. But we're moving to Zach and I are both moving our projects to the oneleif repositories, the forks of the projects. So that'll allow us to have an easier way for us to work together, because then we can just invite everybody to the oneleif team on GitHub. So other than that, I figured out some collision issues this week that have been plaguing me since the beginning of my projects. It finally feels like the game is almost to a prototype state that's actually playable. And then I've been onboarding some new team members this week. I'm gonna butcher his name, but I believe it's Machi. I don't speak Polish, so I'm not gonna pretend like I know how to pronounce that. But he's been super helpful. He fixed his first bug this week, and we got it merged in, and we're super pumped to get him on the project. I had some other people that wanted to get on board, but they're more beginners. So I have some more training to do for them before I can get them on the project. Yeah, that's it for that. Philodex boys, anything else you wanted to add about it? Your status?
Fardine, do you have anything?
Yeah, I guess we've had our intro call. Fabrice, Will, and I sat down and we talked about some of the technical requirements of the concepts we're thinking about for the project. Fabrice or Will, feel free to take away the discussion on that end. But we've kind of listed a basic roadmap, yet to designate a timeline to it. But we have some steps in mind on getting to a V1 slash a launchable prototype, or even close to an MVP, I guess. I can't speak much on the dev side of things, but on the design side of things, we have some design inspirations as well, and I'm starting wireframing, so we should have some quick high fidelity designs soon. One thing that we're trying to do a bit differently than some of the other projects that are going on in oneleif is to have more user-centered research and user-centered testing early on. So simultaneously, along with the wireframing, I'm trying to put together a list of people that the team can reach out to and conduct short problem interviews slash solution pitching to see how to go about it according to people who would actually use the service or product in this case, rather than just going off of our assumptions. So part of it is just right now building the design process for it and then populating it, but also moving into the conception and wireframing stage. That's a design side. I guess Will and Fabrice are better equipped to speak on the dev side.
Develop side right now. It's really kind of based around waiting for those designs. I can get up the initial application and start configuring it to be ready to start work. Yeah, I mean, it's really right now I'm going to be working on documentation, laying out the MVP, starting to make issues for what we need, and then from there, to meet our initial version 1 MVP, it's all going to be front end. all the added functionality after. There might be some that needs a small backend, but we can handle most of it right or all of it right now for MVP just with a simple create React app. But yeah, that's it for development.
Okay. Leaf down.
Leaf down. The initial project is up. Some tickets are made. I need to work on configuring it this weekend, or if anybody wants to grab that from me, feel free. Basically, I should explain the idea of Leaf down right now. So for the OneLeaf website, we need for posts, we decided to have Markdown, so users are able to create design and style the pages kind of however they want. But we couldn't really find any reliable Markdown libraries for React. So, and we've also kind of gone forward on this website saying we want to make all of it, every component, just because it's fun and it's another project to work on. So the initial leaf down will be to meet MVP. Will be doing all the functionality of Markdown that we want, and then from there we'll be able to add our own custom Markdown, add our own functionality, our own designs. I'm laying out MVP for that also right now. Like I said before, issues are made, but still some more need to be made.
Sorry, you got me with a mouthful of food. So moving on. The last thing that we really want to talk about, and by last thing I mean this is going to take probably the rest of the stream, is like so our fun topic this week is community projects and how we want to gear them to help all the new people that we have coming in, because we have varying levels of skill. We have people from coming from IT that don't really do programming, people in high school, or people that know absolutely nothing about programming, all the way up to, I think we've seen a couple senior level people hop in. But yeah, how do we accommodate all these people wanting to work on projects, wanting to find a team, or just have a community to talk to about either issues that they're having or just what they're interested in. So what we initially discussed last week, we put out a Google form for projects that people would be interested in, because Zach and I were thinking about starting a project that we could work on together, that everybody else could work on with us, and we could manage. And that idea was going to be to make a weather app that would kind of keep track of the the weather, humidity, temperature, all that jazz. And it's just the reason we chose that idea was because it was kind of in the middle of what everybody had requested. Everybody had kind of requested things all over. There wasn't really any consistency to the request. There was things from C# backend to Java backend to Python machine learning. It was really all over. And to make a project that accommodates all those is not something that I have come up with a good solution for quite yet. So what we were thinking is just a weather app, because it kind of has some professional qualities to it. Like if you're looking to have something professional on your resume, a weather app would be a great idea. But it's also something that anybody could use, because who doesn't want to check the weather outside before they choose what clothes they're going to wear for the day or whatever. So we started with that idea, and we were pretty dead set on it until the login sign up meeting about an hour ago. And then Fabrice, Will, Zach, and I, and Susie were chit chatting about how we wanted to structure that and who would run it. And I think the conclusion that we've all kind of come to is that I don't think any of us have the time to spare to take on another project now that Will and Fardine are starting a new project. Will starting two projects, and then I'm running Buddy Hop and Zach's running Swift UI Kit, and then we're all working on the OneLeaf website. So I don't think any of us would have the time to contribute a full scale another project and support a bunch of new developers. So what we were kind of thinking is setting up. First of all, Zach and I are going to start our own streams on YouTube. Zach's going to be teaching the fundamentals of Swift and making iOS apps. I'll be teaching the fundamentals of C#, and making .NET projects and Unity projects, to kind of cover some bases of the more common requests that we have. But that kind of misses out on people that are interested in machine learning, Python, React, all that jazz. So the solution that we can think of, since we can't keep starting projects if we don't have enough senior level developers to support them, is encourage the people that are new to start their own projects, and basically being able to facilitate helping them with their projects, because it is an extra degree of effort for us to be able to not only come up with a project idea, work on the project, but managing the project. While it doesn't require a terribly large amount of technical skill, it does require a lot of time and it is a lot of stress. Um, to be able to make manageable chunks of work for people and figure out how to get people on, and then if they don't know what they're doing, teach them what they're doing. So what we're thinking is we can come up with a lot of small project ideas for you, and we can discuss those today. And these projects will be ones that you could do in any language, or the majority of languages, um, and then basically show you guys how you can set them up. And if you have any questions, we can either make sample projects of the super small ones in our own languages, and you guys can kind of transfer those to your own language, whatever that may be. So if I do my project in C Sharp, you could transfer it to Python, for example. Um, and beyond that, basically gearing you to be able to run your own project if that's something you're interested in. So learning the project management skills, how to use Git, how to interact with designers, those type of things. Because I personally think that'll set you up for longer term success than you just working on a team. Um, and on top of that, it'll be a project that, if we come up with the idea, you may not be 100% interested in it, but if we can, brainstorm ideas with you, it'll be something that you're passionate about, and you'll have a lot of effort to put in because you're interested in it. Um, that was a really long-winded answer, and I feel like I rambled a little bit. Somebody want to jump in here?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I will.
No, Cody, jump
Oh
in.
no, you go ahead.
Okay. Two play. So yeah, I think working with, or sorry, to go back and say our projects that we make, when we talk about it, like it's easy for us because we're all connected and that stuff. But to really make it easy for anyone to jump on and join in, we found it's not as easy as we think it is. So we're working to make the documentation better and on all of our projects and that stuff, but we're also working to get those projects done. So for people to bring up their own ideas or things that they're interested in, it's a lot easier for us to talk with you and to generate ideas, or for you to just go off of a simple kind of application or a little command line tool to do something in your own language, because then you can add that and you can kind of know how to do that, and you can move on to the next thing or add that in another little project and add them both together. But we want to do it so that it's not everyone's looking for tickets and now we have to make all these kind of little bits of work for everyone. We want something that you're fully passionate about and that we can come on and just ask you for help or just solve any problems that you have and really leave it up to you. If you want to still jump on any of the projects, we'll try to actually onboard you onto the work that we've gotten and the work that we plan and get you through the documentation, hopefully quick, and onboard you quick into the project, but actually have that experience. Also, that was a little rambly too.
Yeah, that was basically what I was gonna somewhat ask. For part of the series, is there gonna be a section for explaining how to, let's say, go from Visual Studio to publishing it on GitHub?
Yeah, so in my C Sharp series, I'm going to take a language agnostic approach and basically say, here's how you use Git, and I'll just use like text files or something, so it doesn't matter what language you're in, but you can learn how Git works. But as far as publishing your project, that will be kind of project specific, because even if you're doing C Sharp, publishing a Unity game is completely different from publishing a .NET application, like a website, for example. So those kind of things, if somebody has a specific question, I'd love to hop in a voice call or a screen share with that person and record their question, so that way I don't have to answer the question 100 times. So if somebody says, how do I publish a Visual Studio app or a Unity app to the store, to Steam or something, I can just say, go watch this video, so I don't have to spend 30 minutes typing out a long-winded answer.
Yeah.
And part of this, it may seem like we're being kind of selfish here, because we have all these projects and we're already working on them, and we're kind of like siloing ourselves. And that's not our intent here. Our intent is to be able to scale up and help everyone. And to be able to get people on a project is a lot more work than I had even anticipated. We've had a couple people try and hop on the oneleif website that either weren't as knowledgeable or just weren't part of the team for long enough. So we had to go back and explain, what even our goals were on the project. How does the open source functionality of the team work, all that jazz. And the nice part is now that we've done the One Leaf website, or not, we haven't done it, but now that we've taken the effort to set it up and whatnot, we kind of have some ideas of how these things can work, and we can, basically make standards for how these projects are set up in the future, but without having
Yeah.
to take the time for us to implement them ourselves.
That's kind of our bad too. I mean, a project should be well documented where they don't really have to ask these questions. I'm trying to go now and make it a point to document, explain what's going on, what we're doing, and how you can get involved.
But teaching someone, the very basics of Git is completely different than just, saying, here's where you find your tickets, for example. So we're working furiously to try and figure all of those things out at the same time in a time frame that's manageable for everybody to be happy.
And I would say this approach with smaller projects is the goal of it, or in my opinion, is it makes oneleif more approachable. Joining a group and seeing this giant mammoth of a project and being like, I don't even know where I could fit into this, versus seeing that, oh, I could bring in something that's small, like I'm a designer, so like a website redesign even could fit as a project, like a mini little project. I think that's very helpful for people who are fresh to this kind of thing.
Yeah, and I also feel it's a lot more organic. It's not like fall in line and get into the big project and get your contributes. It's really kind of work on your own projects, and hopefully we can make it easy to find other projects that are by interest, and that will be on the One Leaf website with tags and other things of active projects. But hopefully it also drives collaboration between people interested in similar things that have similar projects.
I think kind of touching on to Susie's point about finding these projects intimidating, what might be interesting to explore is having some sort of like tagging for being beginner friendly, or the level of experience you might need to join the project head on. If there's a project that's a bit more learning oriented, and it's friendlier to beginners coming in and doing some of the tasks that are on the task board, then it could have a special designation that people joining One Leaf could look at and be like, yes, okay, I'm not super confident in my coding skills or my design skills. This seems to be an open environment for me to work that out. Whereas something like, let's say, um, I don't know, let's say One Leaf website at a future version that's way down the road. It has a lot of work done, and there's a lot of learning to be done if you were to be onboarded. That might be for someone who's more intermediate, who understands how onboarding works and can kind of do things speedily to get up to date with the project. That might be interesting to explore.
I will say right now, currently with GitHub issues, we do have tags. Right now, it's only senior developer and good first issue are the two tags that distinguish the difficulty. We could try to develop a rating system, uh, maybe like a 1 through 5 to go through the difficulty and have that spelled out. The only issue with that is even then, the rating system is biased to our belief, but we can try to handle this better to make sure we can scale.
Yeah, or even like when the project's being announced too, maybe having like a little blurb about it being beginner friendly, so that the people in it know that they will be mentoring and they're okay with it. Um, doesn't need to be the tasks themselves. Just saying that, hey, this is open to beginners would be enough for anyone on the Discord server too. But yeah, that's a good way to do things too.
To sort of back up what you're saying is part of the reason why jumping onto the One Leaf website is a little difficult is, there are different dynamics like with the team. For example, one person was saying they had a PR up for like an insane amount of time and it wasn't reviewed yet. And, having been on the team for a while, you kind of understand, okay, this is going to take a while. And somebody new might not immediately get that and expect like, I put in the work, I expect the PR to be reviewed immediately. And that's one of the things that one of the feedback issues you sort of got from
Yeah,
that
I mean,
person is it takes a while for PRs to get reviewed,
that's
and the size of the team and the team dynamics, that's also part of it. And
yeah,
when
that's kind of the thing with open source that it's hard to wrap your mind around at first. Is like we're all volunteering our time, no one's getting paid, so like I'm grateful for whatever help I get on these projects. I mean, even looking at other open source projects at work, we're using a tool where they need to get a patch in, and the PR's been up for 12 days, and we consider that very new PR. Like, it's going to take a while to get looked at because everybody in open source is volunteering their time.
Mhm. Exactly, especially since like the project it's a pretty decent sized project. And obviously it would be different if it were a smaller project. And if you come in and you have your own project, first off, you're more interested in it because well it's your own project, it's your work. I have a feeling you get more pride out of that than, just contributing to somebody else's huge project. And it's much easier for somebody to contribute to your project just because of the size. It's much smaller and for someone to integrate into that team.
I think what it's sounding like is we need an established way to manage expectations for anyone interested in the projects, so that they know what they're getting into, and what they can expect if they were to sign up to be a contributor or be there to learn. And I think, kind of speaking to Will's earlier point about documentation, that might be a piece that we need to do once a project is proposed or started.
As far as managing expectation goes, I do have a little fun fact for you guys. So the company that I work for, we have one product that we integrate everything into because it's super customizable and whatnot. When I went through my interview, they basically said our expectations of you as a developer when you get hired on are very little because it takes um, on average 6 months to a year for a full-time developer to understand the majority of the facets of the application. And I've talked to developers that have been there for 7 to 10 years, and they still haven't touched part of the like pieces of the code. So I could go ask one of my senior developers that have been there for 10 years, and they'd be like, "I don't even know what the thing like what this piece of functionality that you're talking about is." And I know the OneLeaf website isn't that big, but like just to show you that e- even larger companies that have this stuff planned out and have been doing it for years still have trouble onboarding people. So you kind of have to come in ready to A, learn a lot, and B, learn some stuff on your own, which is
Yeah.
kind of a pain in the butt when you're a beginner.
Yeah, I mean, I think from our standpoint, we just have to do our best to be able to spin users up.
Do we have any questions in the stream? Ooh. Elon Tusk said, 5-star analogy, Cody's a hero. I wasn't watching the stream when he said he'd be down for that stream. I'm not for sure which one you're referring to. I'm assuming the Git one. And then Melissa said,
Yeah, I think yeah, it was something like that.
this is giving her good clarity of what to do and where to get help. That is awesome. That is kind of our goal here. We've been doing a lot of like organizational restructuring, trying to figure out how to handle helping everyone. And the best thing you can really do to help us to get better as well is just to ask questions. If something doesn't make sense or if something doesn't feel right, like it could be structured better, just let us know. We're super open. Like no, OneLeaf has been a nonprofit for all of 3 months, 4 months. So we're very much in the process of figuring our things out, and we're by no means, the best at what we do. Zach and I are 23 and 24, and we're still learning as developers as well. So all feedback is appreciated. What else? So,
What about me, Sabian? Jeez. I'm good.
yeah, I know. So what are some ways that we can really help? Okay, so if we're not going to start a community project, how can we help you? Oh, controller is vibrating. Sorry. Um, so some community brainstorming here might be a great idea for ideas of really small projects. The upside of that is we can kind of have a little repository if somebody says, what should I work on? We could say, here's some ideas. The downside is maybe they're not interested in that. We'd have to come up with a custom idea, but at least we'd have some options for them. You know, they could go look through it and see if they're interested. Is that something we'd be interested in doing right now, or is that something we can? I guess we have the brainstorming channel. We just need a I guess we need a place to write these ideas down that people can easily find. That sounds like a good page for the OneLeaf website, but also a Discord channel that we could have, I suppose.
Yeah, adding to that, I think it's also it'll also be great if we can have maybe a few videos or maybe a post or two on how to go about starting and maintaining a project. Because kind of tying it back to the PM stuff you brought up, Sabian, a lot of people might be well equipped on the technical skills, but they might not have good project management skills, and they might be new to the field itself. So having some sort of best practices recorded, some ways to go about building a team, to rally people around the topic, to go up looking resources, and to get the project moving, things like that, ticket reporting, task board management. I think those would be very helpful skills to anyone wanting to start, because they'll remove that intimidation factor a bit.
That's a great idea. I'm gonna write those down real quick, and I'm gonna add those to my series of tutorials. Because my goal is not to teach you a language in my tutorials. My goal is to teach you to be a developer, and it doesn't matter what language you are if you use if you're a developer.
And to add to that, if you in that stream, if you could, in a sense, build a small project at the same time, like instead of just telling the people, okay, this is one way to do it, this is one way to manage a project. Well, like you show them, hey, this is where what I'm saying, this is where it applies to. Because sometimes, just hearing the words sometimes it can be intimidating, right? Project management sounds like a huge deal. Well, it is a huge deal, but like even with a small project, you can still practice those skills. And so I think it would be helpful if you could, in a sense, show them what you mean by, hey, creating tickets. Even if it's a small project, you can create 4 or 5 tickets and get things working in a systematic way.
And I'm sure lots of people are watching this and being like, "What in the hell is a ticket?" So that'll be a great thing to explain as well.
Can we get Fabrice a raise?
No.
Oh man.
I'll pay you in more heart emojis. How does that sound?
You guys are getting paid?
Wait a minute. Why'd you guys have to ruin it?
Whoops.
But yeah, so I think the majority of my efforts. Okay, so I still have the OneLeaf website and my game to work on, but the majority of my efforts in what free time I have left will be spent on really planning out. I hate saying the word masterclass because it's such a buzzword, but a masterclass on how to be a developer, because a lot of these classes cover, one thing or another, or they're locked behind a paywall, or you have to split between different YouTube channels and whatnot. My goal would be to have everything centralized to OneLeaf, and if you have any questions on it, you can just hop in our Discord and ask us questions, or hop in our stream and ask us questions. Um, so yeah, look forward to a lot of me asking questions to figure out the best way to set up those type of tutorials. And they probably won't be planned out to like the level of like a college or something, but my goal is to have them somewhat freeform, because my favorite thing about having like a stream and doing these things is that if I were to just do a YouTube video and record it rather than doing a stream, people would ask me questions afterwards, and they'd ask it in Discord, and I have to answer it 100 times. Whereas if they ask it in the stream, anybody watching it in the future can just be like, "Oh, cool! They answered that for me. I don't have to go ask it." Um, it would be cool to get some of the designers on their own streams as well for teaching people how to get into design. I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm just letting my mind wander here. Sorry.
I think like that whole whiteboard design challenge thing would be really interesting to do, just because that's something all current designers, regardless of experience level, can always improve on, and you can always learn new things doing whiteboard challenges. But it's also a way to introduce design as a process and as a tangible skill as well. and explain some of the steps that we go through as a team and not just as an individual. I think that's also a huge part of it. Like, how do designers work collectively um, in one session together, but also um, what's the end-to-end process of that? It's not just the like, hey, this is what design is at a super subjective descriptive level. It's this is the actual steps, kind of like how Fabrice was saying, going through an actual project, but in this case a 1 hour whiteboard challenge or something.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was actually gonna say that I am. It's like in the process of I'm thinking of doing some sort of design streams, whether it's just me one working on some designs for One Leaf, or if I've also thought of just going through basic design principles that things that people always ask about, or I feel like it's not as well known to people just in general.
How do I choose a color scheme?
Well, yeah, that's something
Like that type of
color.
thing.
Color theory is the whole topic. I thought about that too, but the whiteboard thing is really interesting. Fardine.
Yeah, I think having kind of both would be the, at least in my perspective, the best case scenario. Having some of the content specific design stuff, like you mentioned, teaching some of that would be really, really beneficial to anyone looking to start design. But I think on the other side, with the whiteboard design stuff, and potentially other formats of it too, it doesn't have to be that specifically. You're teaching how to learn design, not just design itself. And I think that's also kind of similar to the whole talk about teaching how to be a developer, not just being a developer. I think there's merit to having both streams. If we can get like both paths for both design and dev, that would be like the ideal scenario. But yeah.
Also, if we start doing streams and whatnot, and we cover something, but we don't cover it well enough, or we completely miss over something, message us so we can add it to our list. I'm hoping to just kind of cover everything that I possibly can in relation to development.
So what is whiteboard designs?
Oh, that would have been a good thing to cover. Sue's
Yeah, I can take that. So basically, in the design field, you typically you normally see whiteboard challenges in an interview setting or at an early um, stage of the ideation part of the process. Um, but essentially, uh, like long story short, it's walking through the problem that you're aiming to solve and the proposed alternatives to the proposed solution and other alternatives to solving that problem on a whiteboard. It's very low fidelity. There isn't any tech involved in the sense that you're not coding anything, you're not doing anything on the digital screen. It's all with with marker and whiteboard. You're just sketching out potential. If it's a digital solution, you're sketching out potential frames of what it might look like, what features it might host, what is the user flow as they move from screen to screen, all on the whiteboard. If it's any other physical solution, you're doing the same, but with those aspects in mind. And you're also kind of breaking down the problem into solvable chunks and understanding it from the user's perspective. It's essentially a quick walkthrough of the design process um, in a very micro, isolated scenario. It's kind of like I guess, I don't know too much about dev interviews, but you typically get um, a scenario based question and you have to solve it a specific way or a certain way. It's kind of like that, but instead, because design is a bit more usually a bit more intensive with high fidelity stuff. The whiteboard and marker is a way to get around it in a quick way.
Fardine, you gave me a great idea to add how to interview to my series.
Yeah, I think that's essential.
Fardine, would you plan on having like other One Leaf members on with you when you stream something like that? That way, like, you kind of have like an active audience going on.
I haven't thought that much about having an audience, but speaking to the part about doing it myself, I don't think it's something. Um, I don't think the essence of it is to do it by myself. I think it would be a really good team building activity for all the designers because there isn't that many of us, to be honest. And I think we've got very good interpersonal relationships, and I think it'll help foster that a bit more. But B, I think the real benefit of that is to also showcase how designers work as a collective, because you'll rarely ever run into a situation where you're working in an isolated bubble. And I think that's the same to be said with developers as well. Even talking about designer developer handoff is a huge thing. So I think having all of us, or as many of us that are interested and can participate, kind of do it together. I think it'll be a really great way for us to bond, but also a great way to showcase um, designer teamwork and collaboration to a live audience. Speaking to the audience part, if it's a stream, I don't personally mind. I think that's a great way to do it, as Sabian mentioned, like with the benefits of having a stream. But if it's a recorded video too, that's also fine.
So the answer is yes.
Yes, yeah. It's like having a picnic. It's not as fun by yourself.
You've obviously never had a picnic in quarantine.
Well, in quarantine,
Or
please,
in Nebraska.
a virtual picnic.
Don't you talk about Nebraska like that.
What did we do to you?
Just exist. That's what we did to people. Did I miss anything? Hold on. Let me pull back open the stream notes. Oh wait, no. I'm just in the other view. Okay, so we wrote down some steps to start a project. I just wrote these down as Zach and I were talking, or as everybody was talking in the last meeting. So the first thing that you should always start out is, if you don't know what to do, ask questions, get guidance. Don't just start doing something. Well, I mean, if you're gonna develop, just start developing. That works too. But in order to, like, what's an analogy I could use for this? If you're an arrow and you want to get to somewhere, if you can be reshot, yeah, that's fine. You'll eventually get there. But if we can aim you in the right direction, you'll get there a lot quicker. Man, I'm happy I came up with that analogy. That was pretty good. um, so yeah, we, rather than us just giving you a project or whatnot, really what we need to know is your goals, what you want to do. If you really want to become a game developer and you're asking how you make a .NET project, maybe that's not the right way to start. So really just start asking some of the senior level people, or just shout out into the help channel saying, I know I want to do things, but I don't know how, or get as specific as you can. But yeah, we'll do our best to give you a roadmap that will be useful. There are roadmaps out there for like becoming a web developer and things like that. But they also don't. They may not include the resources that you need and things like that, so we can help you find them. Once you kind of have an idea of the way that you want to go, either learn the computer science fundamentals, learn the IT fundamentals, or the design fundamentals, whatever path you're leaning towards, and we can help you find resources for those as well. And then once you kind of have the path that you want to go and you've learned some fundamentals, pick a language or a framework and kind of stick with it for a little while so you can get kind of deep into it and understand everything as much as you can about it. And then once you have a decent understanding of a language or a framework, or language and a framework, then make a super, super small, and I mean super small project. Like Zach and I were talking about a weather app earlier. Literally an app on your iPhone that would just display the temperature and a button that would change from Celsius to Fahrenheit. I'm talking that simple. And the reason we do that is because if you have this grand old idea, we all did this, and if you didn't, I'm sorry, you should have done it. We all did this, where in high school or in college we had these big ideas and we wanted to do something with them. But that is not how you should start, because I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen every single time, unless you're a robot and you can work forever. You'll start the project, you'll get a decent way into it, and then because you had to do so much research and because you hit so many roadblocks, you'll get burnt out before you get to complete it. And that's the last thing you want to do. So what you should do is write that idea down, go get some learning, get to the point where you're not hitting as many roadblocks, or you can get by those roadblocks quicker. And then when you come back to that project in the future, you can actually complete it. And maybe in that time you've found a team that you like, or people that can help you solve those issues faster. Um, that'll help you prevent yourself from, I don't want to say wasting those ideas, but losing the passion that you would have had you waited. Um, so yeah, I don't have any other projects other than that simple weather app. We could come up with a million though, like a terminal app or a console application that takes in two numbers and you do a math operation on it, like add them together or something, and then output the answer. I had Cody do that earlier this week, and I feel like that taught him quite a few things that even though it's a simple
Hmm.
project, still gives you some useful insight that will make things on a big project make a lot more sense.
I think one of the big issues with bigger projects is, well, they're big projects,
Yeah.
and if you if you try to do them in one go, first off, like you said, there's going to be the burnout aspect, and then sometimes you're just like, you know what, I don't even know where to start because it's such a grand idea, it's such a huge project, and you've got to understand that probably in order to complete a big project, you have to break it down into smaller components, make it a little bit more modular. And you work on one tiny component, you work on another one. When that's done, another one. And before you know it, you're like already halfway done with the project. But if you approach it with the mindset that, hey, I'm gonna make this huge thing, half of the time you're gonna be like, you know what? Yeah, that wasn't a good idea. When it's not that you couldn't complete it, it's just that you approach it in a whole different manner than you should have. And you sort of discourage yourself in the process.
No, yeah, that's actually amazing input. What I would add to that is like you said, you could build one small component and then another small component and so on. And rather than focusing on the big project, what you could do, let's say for example, you want to build, I don't know, a website to keep track of all your favorite movies. Well, what you could first do is just make a simple list of movies in the terminal, just to figure out how a list works and whatnot. So you could make that project, but in smaller components that ev- having a bigger end goal in mind might help. But if you're trying to do all of it at once, it'll bog you down. And then you can reuse those things in the future and learn use what you learned to make things go quicker.
Yep, exactly. We had a chat the other day. I think it was in the general channel, but we were sort of talking about something like that. It's the process of, you feel underqualified a lot of times. I think it's called, what is it, imposter syndrome, something
Yep.
like that. And a lot of times, in order to get over that, what you need to understand is, hey, maybe what I need to do is not just learn, 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 and then go do one huge project. It's start on a project, make it small, and figure out what you need to learn for that specific project. And once you've learned that, move on to a different aspect. Because all in all, you have basic components of almost every project. It's usually, you get data from somewhere, you process that data, and then you display that data. It's usually eh, like the main concepts of most projects. And it's very beneficial to know, hey, I know exactly how to display a list of things, like you were saying, for example. And then if you need to get data from a database, you move on to a small tiny project and you figure out, hey, I need to learn how to get data from a database. But if you go about it where you're trying to learn everything you need to know for the project in one go, you're not going to remember half of the stuff you figured out, half of the stuff you went through. And by the end of it, you're probably not going to implement anything at all because you're going to be like, hey, this is such a huge undertaking. I don't know what to do.
The other nice part about doing it in that approach is that if you're in a bigger project, you don't want to mess up things that you did previously. So if you go, just make the displaying a list, then you can try and display the list in 100 different ways, not worrying about, breaking interactions with other pieces. So if you keep it small, you get to mess around with that. Um, you did say I don't remember what thing you were saying that reminded me of this, but one of the best pieces of advice I can give any developer for it was the imposter syndrome. One of the best pieces I can give you is not to compare yourself to other developers because people will learn quicker than you. People will have better innate skills for understanding logic or understanding how UI works. The only thing you should be comparing yourself to is who you were yesterday and how much you've learned since then. If you only do that, and if you're constantly a better person than you were yesterday, you'll catch up to those people. I promise you. But if you get bogged down and worried that you're never going to be good enough, that anxiety will prevent you from getting to the point that you really want to be at.
Also, another thing I have to say about that is, a part of getting better is doing something you're afraid of. I know part of being like new to like and being a new designer or intimidated by other ones, like people that are better than you, it can be really scary just to like work on design work on your own or something, because it's like, oh, this is never gonna look good as this person I saw online or dribble or whatever. So part of getting better is just doing something that scares you every once in a while.
I feel we kind of hit on all the main points that are necessary. We're kind of just chit chat at this point, so I don't really have anything else planned. That was kind of everything I wanted to talk about, just to have a conclusion here. So if you guys want to keep chit chatting, I'm 100% down, and we can keep the stream open for this because a lot of this information will be vitally useful to new developers and designers. But yeah, that's all I have for the structured portion of the stream. Anybody watching got any questions? Stream chat looks good to go, and I'm not seeing any in streaming discussion. I have to run to the restroom real quick. I'll be right back, guys.
All right. There you
So
guys
how
go.
did you guys get into programming?
FTB, go first.
Go.
I pick Fabris. Go.
It's a lot of.
He's not here.
Says he's here.
All right,
Ugh.
whoever wants to go.
I'll try. I got into programming. Went to college for what was it? Sports management, and then decided orientation switched to computer science. Took my first programming class and fell in love. Wanted to get into mobile development, but had no experience, so I went web, and here I am, a front end web developer who tries to work on mobile applications in my free time.
Can you be a front end web developer without any good like design skills in
Oh yeah, look
like
at me, man.
artistic?
Oh yeah.
My shit's ugly. You have people who are paid to make the designs for you. So basically, as a front end developer, you sit and wait for your features and requirements to be defined, and they have UX designers like Fardine and Susie who make those for you. Basically, when I started, it was just they sent us photoshopped pictures, and we would create
What
our off those.
what might help your understanding here is kind of an explanation of what's expected of a developer at our level. So just some basic requirements that would that I would try to explain that an HR person would do a bad job of on a job requirement. Um, as a backend developer, for example, a lot of people just kind of assume you're sitting down and programming, and you're doing your features and you're making the server and all that jazz. You're kind of off in your own little world. Well, as both a front and back end developer, a lot of it is a team based experience because not only may the project be big and you're going to have questions on how certain features work, but also you're not the one coming up with these features. A lot of the time you have a client that is the person you're selling this to, and they're requesting things for you to add to the program. So the way it'll work is that you have some sort of account manager or something like that, or some sort of salesperson that makes the sale. And then once the sale's done, that person usually doesn't have a lot of interaction, unless they have some sort of relationship with that company and they want them to be the the
Point of
middleman.
contact.
Yeah, the point of contact. And then once you get past that point, usually you have some sort of the term is BA. Is it business analyst? Is that what it stands for?
Yeah.
BA or BD. I can never remember what their
BAs.
exact job description is, but basically what they do is that they work with the client and formulate requirements, right? So they say, I want to add this feature to your project. Like, for example, the feature that I had to work on today was this database request didn't output an Excel report the correct way, right? So the client basically said, okay, this is the problem that I have, and then my business analyst worked with them and said, okay, here's how it should work. Here's every little bit of information to explain to you how this should work so that you can do your job. And then I get the ticket, and the ticket has a description. It'll say like, this client wants things to happen this way. It'll have acceptance criteria saying, the format of this document should look like this. Here's how long it should take you, or at least an estimate, so that way they can track the number of hours that it'll take. And then I'll get the ticket, and usually what'll happen is, since I'm so new, I'll have to go to the business analyst and say, I don't even know how to get to what you're referring to in the program. So I go ask her, and she'll give me a screen share walkthrough of how it works. And then once I have that, then I start poking around, and I'll do some debugging and say, okay, how is this data being pulled, or how is this thing being displayed? And then usually what'll happen after that is I'll have even more questions. So I'll go to one of the developers and say, I see this is where I should be in my code, but I'm not quite 100% sure how it works. Could you explain it to me? And they'll usually give you some more higher level knowledge on how it works. They're not going to walk through, line by line with the code. And then once I have that information, I have enough information to start on the ticket, and then usually I hit some roadblocks, right? So I go start, generating this Excel document, and then, I get halfway through it, and then I message one of my developers and say, this just doesn't feel very efficient, right? And then they'll say, oh yeah, you didn't realize that we had this like entire program set up to generate these reports already. You just had to make the format for it. I'm like, oh, I just wasted the last half day. And they're like, well, now you know. So it's this feedback loop of you working with the business analysts and your senior developers that know what's going on, or maybe another mid-level developer that just happened to touch this piece of software before. And you're not locked in a room all day. I mean, you may be programming for 60 to 70% of the day. A lot of the time, you'll have a lot of meetings. Meetings would be something along the lines of every day. Most companies have what's called stand-up. You say what you did yesterday, what you're going to do today, and anything that's blocking you from getting your work done, so that they can figure out how they can help you. If you're blocked, they'll give you a new piece of work that you can work on while you're waiting. Other meetings that you'll have are planning the next sprint, right? So they usually break out pieces of work into what are called sprints, which is just some time frame that says you'll get these things done in this time frame, or at least try to. These are your priorities, and then so you'll plan out what those things are, and then at the end of it, you'll have a little meeting to say, how did it go? What could we have done better? Those are kind of the explanations that I can offer.
To summarize a lot of that, and to answer your original question, Cody, the way I like to think about it is that designers are typically the architects and developers are the construction crew. It helps to be a design-oriented developer. So if you knew a bit more about the blueprints and how to go about forming them, which would help you actually build the actual building, and vice versa. If you were an architect who knew about how the construction crew is going to work, and what are some of the tools that they're going to use, and how they're going to lay all the bricks and things like that, it would help you make a more realistic design. But that's essentially how I like to perceive the two groups. The more you can speak each other's language, the better the handoff of those blueprints would be, and the better change requests backwards would also be.
And
Now
also,
there's tools also, Cody, that like we use Figma now, and there I'm able to go look at what a UX designer has designed, and it even shows me like the font size they use, the font family, like the margins, the padding, to give me a better idea of how I can kind of translate it over to front end code.
I'll go ahead and pull up
Yeah.
the Figma for people watching the stream so they can understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's useful information because, I can't draw, I'm not artistic.
I'm not either.
But, I'm kind of interested because I like, the hex codes and the color theory and everything
Yeah,
like that.
and I've done what Fardeen said. I've been trying to read up on color theory, like try to read up on like the mind, like try to like kind of go through what UX designers do, so I have a better idea too. Because I've had projects in the past where they're just very ugly, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
It also helps as a developer to be able to ask educated questions and not have them just be able to tell you what's happening. So like even at my job, like the software that I work with is for leasing, like leasing a car or something, like that. So learning as much as I can about that helps me, prevent from asking a lot of unneeded questions, and also makes it a lot easier for me to figure out what's going on.
And you don't have to be an artist to be a designer either. Like a lot of these are learnable skills, and does so you can get better at them. And a lot of design isn't making stuff pretty or something, it's making it the best thing it can be for the user and keeping them in mind. That's really
Yeah.
what design is. And
Yeah, that's what I like.
Yeah, it's basically creative problem solving.
yes.
With some pretty thrown in.
Yeah. Usually, usually if the team is strapped for resources and there aren't as many designers, then typically you have the few designers that do exist kind of doing visual design, but also UX design, UI design. Like it's a lot of everything, but a lot of large companies and a lot of well fleshed out design teams that do exist that typically have some sort of segmentation where you would have a graphic designer who's specifically there just to create visual assets, and they might be artistic and they might have like an artistic background, whereas you might have like a UX researcher who doesn't even do anything aesthetically. They just look into the problem, conduct interviews, and understand how the user goes about interacting with the product or service. So it really, kind of speaking to Susie's point too, she's absolutely right when she says that you really don't need any graphic design skills or any visual design skills. They definitely do help with the job, but um, at the end of the day, it's just problem finding and problem solving.
Okay, well, that's really good knowledge. Thanks.
No worries.
I don't know if it was said earlier, but do we have an ETA of the new website?
So it's heavily dependent on when the designs get done, and that could be, it could be a week it really depends on when people have time, right? Because none of us are getting paid to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And some designs, maybe somebody spent 2 weeks on something, and we come back and we say, ooh, actually that wasn't what we were thinking. Maybe we didn't do a good enough job of explaining it. Those things happen, right? So getting ETAs on software is actually really hard. Estimation is like a field of its own almost. But yeah,
Okay.
as far as an ETA goes, I'd like to see V1 done within the month,
Okay.
optimistically.
I do need to head out here, folks, but it's been a slice.
Nice talking to you, Ferdy. Thanks for coming.
No
Yeah,
worries.
see
It
ya.
was fun to be around.
See
Hope
ya.
everyone has a great night, and I shall see you on Sunday's meeting.
Sounds great, buddy.
Bye, all.
See ya.
Later.
Well, now that the
But
life
yeah.
of the party is gone. Sorry, I interrupted. Will, what were you gonna say?
I was just saying I'd like to have that website done soon.
Thankfully, once we have the designs, implementing them is pretty quick.
Yeah.
I need to finish my ticket making
Yeah,
the
you
map.
guys are fast.
Will and Fabrice are too damn fast. Hard to keep up.
When it's static, it's easy.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, we only have 2 views left, really. I think, yeah. We do need the mobile navigation design still. I don't know if that's been reiterated. We have a mobile navigation right now, but it's like Fabrice did a great job with it, but it's not doesn't really go with the rest of the website.
I need to focus on that then.
I wish we need I want to get the I'm gonna look into getting that development subdomain working this weekend, even though I know nothing about the stuff. I've just found some good articles on how to do it.
Are you talking like on AWS?
Yeah,
Yeah, let's do that together. That sounds like a pain in the butt, but I'd love to help because I have no idea how it works either.
because I think our development team really needs to see this. Be like, imagine us doing the release and then them seeing it and then pointing out all these issues. I'd really like them to see it and say, and then we could show people in OneLeaf right now the site what the site is currently like, because it looks nothing like the one we've been showing them. It looks way better.
Yeah, that's true. Also, for like showing the designers, they're not going to download npm and understand how those things
No.
work.
I wouldn't expect them to.
Yeah, me either.
Don't
I
make
know.
me do it.
Y'all will have some issues with it, because once you see it like in person with the responsiveness, it changes it a bit.
Cody, I think what you'll come to find and what you'll come to enjoy is that everybody kind of has their own role on a team, and so you're really only siloed to having to do that work, which can make you get really good at one thing really quick.
Okay.
Okay, speaking about the NPM thing, side story. So I was in this class, and it was like the whole class was working on the project. We're supposed to learn Agile from it, and for whatever reason, I was on QA for like a good week or two, and then they put me on design. But even when I was still on design, they made me like download Docker and stuff. You guys, I have no idea how to use Docker.
Oh my God.
None of us did.
Yeah, I don't know how to use it, and I've had to use it 100 times.
I use it all the
Marcus
time.
is
I
the
don't
one
know
that knows
why.
how to use it.
I was like, what is this thing? Like, I don't even know. Like, pretty sure how to use like terminal stuff, like command line, whatever.
If you want to know what Docker is, I can give you a really crappy explanation.
Susie, we should have you walk through the docs I just wrote for starting up the application from the eyes of a beginner.
That's a
to
really
see
good
if you
idea.
can do it. And then you could also be able to see the site.
There you go. You just got work.
I'm sorry, I missed that because I'm still on the Docker thing, you guys. Like terminal command line stuff, like I can't, like it's just hard. I need to see it. If I'm not seeing it, it's not happening. All right, what did you just say? Please tell me.
I said you need to go through. I just wrote a bunch of docs to help beginners stand up the oneleif website front end and see if you can do it. So I know these docs are good. It's about, I think it's about 3 commands that you need to run to actually run the front end.
On GitHub. I'll see if she can run it. I'm not gonna give her any hints.
It's pretty. I did over like I went pretty thorough on explaining everything and why you have to do it and all that. So hopefully, I mean, I prefer this. I'd try to ask all like new people who use it if they had any issues, so I could get some feedback and try to make it better.
It's on GitHub.
Where on the GitHub?
It's on the
React
oneleif front end README. You can start there.
The OneLeaf website API React front end, that one?
Oneleif website React, and you just scroll to the bottom of the README.
Okay.
Or click contribution, and that'll take you to the home of it, and that's how you get started.
I think I'm there. Okay.
I guess you can just go standing up the application in the nav bar on the right.
Do you guys have a paid Figma?
Oh, a paid Figma?
Yeah.
I think it's free, right? I don't know.
Yeah, but it says I think only like 3 projects.
We do not have a paid one.
How many projects are we able to have on this with it being free?
I am not the person to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We have
Fardean's
discussed-
account, shared project or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think Fardine has a paid thing, and we're using his.
We have talked about in the future looking into tools that give discounts to nonprofits or even free subscription to nonprofits, or if we have the funds in the future to pay for tools. But
The
right
hard-
now, we're trying to do our best.
Yeah, the hard part is that like most tools are like $5 to $10 per user per month.
Well,
And-
yeah, that's not the hard part, but like it's the hard part that we want to give access to everyone. Like we
Yeah.
would willingly pay for a tool only for access, for a certain, but then it's kind of exclusive. Because to scale up with the whole looming factor of like, oh, okay, anyone that wants to use this is $5 extra, then like 1,000 people is just a little bit crazy for a little organization that doesn't get any income steady.
Yep.
But you know what? The OneLeaf YouTube, it'll be making millions one day, and we'll be able to buy all the tools.
Is Do we put ads on the One Leaf website everywhere?
Yeah. The One Leaf YouTube. The One Leaf YouTube. If you're not using the One Leaf YouTube, you're bad.
So are with the nonprofit status, are we allowed to use ads like in the future?
So nonprofits can do everything companies can do. We just can't have like a stock. Like we can't just be on the stock market, right? Because basically it says the company can't make money, but like we could pay. Like Zach and I could technically get paid for being a leader in the organization, right? That's not what we're here for. But like a company can pay a nonprofit can pay its employees just like any other company. It's just the company can't make money, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how to explain that better.
I think that's good.
Yeah. So like we can buy things. We can yeah, we could basically do everything a normal company can do, other than having like being on the stock market and being a public company that can actually have like shareholders that make money off of it.
Okay.
Hey,
That makes sense.
well, I can give you some feedback on this. I can do it later too.
All right.
It makes sense. It's just like wording stuff, like forgetting to say a few words for clarity or something like that. So,
Okay.
other than that, it makes sense.
Did you get it up and running actually?
I read everything and understood it. Is
That's
that
not
not
what I
good
want to
enough?
see. I want to see
Nothing's
you
good
can
enough.
run it.
Having Cody here is actually perfect for this. Bringing someone new onto the team and whatnot, and having him ask questions on stream that other people are probably like, "What in the world?" This is perfect. You came on at the right time, Cody. That's all I'm saying.
That's good.
So Cody, what do you do?
So right now I am in university online for bachelor's in CIT.
Okay.
I want to do kind of like a web development ish, like web software, right now I'm kind of leaning more towards going front end. I'm pretty new to programming, so I have a lot to learn.
So my recommendation is don't put yourself in a corner right now with like the one thing you want to do. Just try to
Mhm.
take in as much as possible. Once you're fluent in one language, you can pretty much pick up anything.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Really, yeah. I mean it. My recommendation to anybody out there trying to become a front end developer: don't pick up JavaScript or PHP first. I'd stick with a language like Java.
A
My first
sensible
language,
man.
yeah, C++, because
I
it actually follows object-oriented programming, which you can use in JavaScript, but
Yeah.
JavaScript is the wild,
Um,
wild west.
I also heard that I've only heard that like one other place too, that JavaScript doesn't have,
There's
it
no
can't cover everything, unlike Java or C Sharp, can cover a lot more
Yeah,
in just the fundamentals than JavaScript can.
yeah, it's all
JavaScript
about
can
the
do everything, but it like there's so many ways it can be done that like it may not make sense.
yeah. Like I've never made a class in JavaScript. Like there's no need really,
What about your
unless
class components, man?
like
Or
I guess those.
TypeScript.
I've never written in TypeScript.
Me either. I've stayed as far away from as possible from JavaScript.
I've looked at TypeScript, but the closest thing I've written to in TypeScript, Kotlin kind of reminded me of TypeScript.
Really? Which is really similar to Swift.
I think it was only because of optionals.
Ah,
That's why it reminded me. It's been a while since I saw it though. Yeah, I like Kotlin a lot. I'm hoping to help out on the OneLeaf iOS application.
Will over here doing anything and everything.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what I've always done at every job, even though this is my second software job that I've been at, is I always say yes to everything. And like being able to do that move, like I got put as a development lead in under a year because I just accrued enough knowledge where I could help other people.
My first job, they said, "Hey, you're the lead on this project," and I said, "I have no idea what I'm doing. This is my first job." Good Good thing I was the only developer on that project. Thank God.
But yeah, I try to stick. I don't know what the word is, but I try to work on everything.
Trial
So
by
what's
fire.
I kind of have an unrelated question.
Go for it.
I've seen on certain subreddits kind of like the more of a leaning dislike for Java, because of Oracle, and it's kind of, I don't know. I just heard kind of bad things. Is that more of just a Reddit thing, or
Yeah, you're gonna
is
find really strong opinions on everything.
I've never heard anything about that.
I can talk on this really quick. I think it was the Java 11 license issue.
Yeah, Oracle's making people pay to use Java now.
Java was emailing people that were using Java 11, asking for them to pay for it or something like that. I wasn't too aware of it, but I also know that Java's owned or mainly contributed by Oracle, so that's licensed out. And Kotlin's a new thing that kind of is 100% interoperable, and you can translate back and forth between Kotlin pretty easily. Between Java and Kotlin, I mean. But I think that's where the dislike stems from.
Yeah, I never heard all that. My last project was using Java 8, so that's probably why I didn't know that.
If I had to give my input on Java, I've done a lot of Java. I did pretty much mainly Java at my last job, and I have developed a small dislike for Java because there's a lot of boilerplate code that is needed to do anything. So there's a lot of tedious work. A lot of the documentation that comes from the big companies that use Java is not only does it look awful because it's like really old from like 80s and 90s and whatnot. Okay, maybe not 80s, but 90s. But it just feels outdated. There's a lot of deprecation. There's a lot of background knowledge that if you haven't been in the industry for a long time, it just feels like you're missing something in Java.
okay?
So that
Why Kotlin replace it?
yeah, that and it's just a cleaner language. Java has a lot of things that just feel old. The syntax is kind of crappy. The boilerplate is another part of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Kotlin throws out all the boilerplate.
I put
Go C
Java
sharp.
similar to
Yeah.
Objective-C.
um,
Yeah.
Respective to Swift and Kotlin.
I would 100% use C Sharp over Java. Kotlin may be better than C Sharp just because of how modern and new and great the syntax is. I haven't used it personally myself, but I've heard great things about it. And then as far as Java and C Sharp goes, they are like the go-to for enterprise level projects. And by enterprise, I mean for really large companies that need to scale. And it's not because they're super fast. It's because they're reliable and they've been used by these big companies for a long time.
And they're both backed by big companies.
Yeah, that too. So
Pretty
you're
much the same language.
Yeah. I've seen though, like more in Eastern Europe, it seems Java is a lot more common. In like in the West, it's more C Sharp now. Is that true?
on average, you're probably right, but there's still a lot of Java jobs.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been a Java developer in both my companies, so I couldn't really say. And I don't really know anybody who writes in C Sharp professionally.
Me?
Now you do?
Yeah, at my new job, yeah.
That's my reference.
Is the last time I looked, which was like 3 or 4 months ago, C Sharp had the most job recs requirement or job requests out of any language. But that's also that's because C Sharp covers so many areas because they have Xamarin for mobile, they have ASP for web and Unity for game development. So it's not necessarily all for one thing, whereas Java is mainly for enterprise level stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's really helpful. I have to go though. It was nice being here with you guys.
Yeah, thanks
I'll
for
talk
joining,
to you
buddy.
guys later.
Awesome.
See you guys.
man.
It's kind of nice dispelling those myths that you read, because so many people are like beyond opinionated as developers.
Reddit is a bubble.
Oh my goodness, the CS career questions is literally the worst place you could ever go to.
It's super depressing.
It is. You get two people. I can't find a job ever, and I can't understand why. And you can read their personality in that. And then you get the people that are, I make $300,000 a year as my first job in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Well, anybody else got anything else we want to like chat about on stream, or you want me to cut it here? I feel
I'm good.
like Cody was the life of the last 30 minutes, and now he's gone. All right, we'll go ahead and shut her down. Thanks everybody for watching.